Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year. This is Nasa Strad. Today on the channel, we're learning how to make a simple short nika with an elastic or a drawstring waist. If you're interested, keep watching. Let's get into this. So we'll be needing our fabric. You'll be needing at least 1 yard of fabric depending on the length, and then you'll be needing your other tools for this, your ruler, your chalk, your scissors, and your tape. So the first thing we'll go ahead to do is to fold our fabric into two to cut out our front piece. So ensure you fold enough to have the circumference you'll be working with. All right, so I folded that down. And I'm going ahead to just draw a line at the top here to serve as my starting line. So from that line, I'll be marking 1.5 inches downwards, which will be for my casing, whether you're using a rope or you're using an elastic. So it depends on the size of the elastic or the rope you want to use for yours. Okay, so I want mine to be 1/2 inch. So I just went ahead to mark 1.5 inches right there and I marked it down. So all our measurements will be coming from the second line instead. Okay, so taking our measurements from the second line instead. All right. So the first thing we want to measure is the length of what you want, where you want your shot to stop. So mine, I want it to be 18 inches. I just went ahead to mark 18 inches firstly. All right. So we know usually we need to add hemming allowance to whatever you're making. So I went ahead to add 2 inches for my hemming allowance. I will just rule my lines there. So you can use whatever length you want your shot to stop. This can be shorter than this or longer depending on how you want it to be. All right. So I just mark that down. And the next thing I'll do is to mark my hip point, that's my waist to hip, which is 8 inches, and then my crouch depth, which is 10.5 inches. Now, to get your crouch depth, go ahead and divide your round hip by 4 and you can mark that down. All right. So I just divided mine by 4, which mine is 41 inches. I have 10.5 inches. I just marked it down and I'm rolling the lines I have at those points. All right. So we have our lines down right now. Okay. So this is a free short. It's not going to be fitted. It's meant to be free, just meant to be easy. So at the hip line, I'll go ahead and mark quarter of my round hip. Okay. And I'll also mark the same thing at the waist, that's the top part, the two lines I have at the top. All right. And I'll repeat the same line also at my crouch depth line. So just watch what I'm doing. I just marked quarter of my round hip on those points, and then I'm connecting them together in a straight line. All right. So to get our crouch curve, I'll go ahead and take the measurement I have like so and divide it by 4. So I'll divide it by 2 firstly and then divide it again by 2 to get the measurement I have there. So whatever measurement you marked for yours, which is your hip measurement divided by 4, divide that by 4 again to get your crouch curve. So I just divided that down, got the mark there. I'm just going to use my free hand to curve that to meet the hip line. Okay, you can also use your curve rule at that point. Okay, if you can't get this freely with your hands. Okay, now for where this is going to end, go ahead and take the circumference measurement you have around there, divide by 2 instead. Now this is the thigh area, so divide that by 2 instead. Okay, so ensure you don't divide by 4, if not you have that looking too small. So divide that by 2 inches instead. Now, if you want it to be a little bit bogus, go ahead and add 1/2 inch to that area so that it's going to be free on your body, like extra free on your body. Depends on what you want, right? So we have our front down. This is all we'll be having for the front. I'll just touch up the lines here so you can see clearly. All right. After which I will just go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so this is what we have for the front piece. Remember, it is free, so we don't need to impute our waist measurement for this. So we just go ahead and cut it out. Okay, so this is what we have for the front. This is what it will be looking like. So remember, we have two pieces of this because this is folded into two. So you need to have two pieces of this. Ensure you have two. So I'm gonna ahead to fold another piece for the back, and I'm placing my front on top of it as a front, my front piece on top of it. Now, where you have the crouch area, where you have the crouch curve, ensure you have enough allowances at that point. Okay. Now, for the back, to know what we're going to use at the back, remember what I came out. Okay, I didn't mention this earlier. What I came out from my crouch curve was 2.5 inches. So for the back, I added half of an inch to my 2.5 inch to get me 3 inches instead. And then I'm using 2.5 inches as my allowance for the back. Now, if after dividing what you have, what after dividing your hip circumference by 4 and then dividing the what you got again by 4, you have 2 inches that you use to come out for your crouch curve. Go ahead and add half of an inch to that 2 inches to get 2.5 inches to extend that of the back. So I hope you got that. And then use your 2 inches on other areas to get your seam allowance. So for mine, I had 2.5 inches, which I used for my crouch curve. I just used that to added half of an inch to that to get the curve for my crouch curve for the back, and then use 2.5 inches for the other places. So I just connected that together. I used my free hand to just do the same thing I did in front, curved it also to meet my hip area, as you can see, and then I'll connect it to meet the full length. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay, whatever measurement you have for your front crouch, add half of an inch to that to get the back crouch extension. All right, then go back to the initial measurement you have to use as your inseam allowance. All right, so what we're going to do for the back, in order for us to have proper cover for the back, the waist area of the back, I'll be going up by 1 inch around the crouch area. You can see where my 1 inch is. It will not be by the sides, but where I have the crouch. And then I will just connect it to nothing at the other end. Now, this is so that when you sit down, the back part of your shorts will not be open, right? It's important for you to add this. After which, I just went ahead to cut out the parts I will not be needing. So you want to ensure that the crouch for the front and back are on the same line, all right? So this is what I have for the front piece. You can see I have two pieces of this. I'll go ahead and stitch the crouch area of my front together by half of an inch. And I'll do the same thing to my back crouch, stitch it down by half of an inch. So I've stitched it down. This is the front. This is what it looks like after I stitched it together. And this is my back after stitching it together. So what I want to do now is to join the sides together. We're going to place this right side of fabric to right side of fabric. That's replacing your back to the front. Now you'll notice that the back is bigger than the front. Remember, we added allowances to that. It is meant to be like that, okay? It's not an oversight. Just go ahead and join the sides together, after which align your crouch area and join it together also. Okay, so I've joined it together. You can see how the side looks like. So while you're joining, ensure you use half of an inch. All right, so this is what I have after I finish joining my piece together. I've also joined the crouch area together also. Okay, this is what it looks like. So the next thing I want to do is to fold our casing for our elastic or our rope, whatever you're using. So just go ahead and fold half of an inch firstly, and then fold in 1 inch downwards. So remember the line we marked earlier while cutting this out. You need to ensure that your fold gets to that line. You shouldn't exceed it, okay, so that it doesn't take up the allowances beneath it. All right, so ensure it gets to that line. Go ahead and fold it, and while you're folding, ensure you have 1 inch at the waist area, that's the center front, so that you can pass your elastic or your rope through that, and go ahead and hem the edge of your short. So I've done that. This is the end of my short. I've hemmed it, okay? And then for the waist area also, I've gone ahead to just fold it in. I'll just open this up so you see. So I folded it in. You can see I have enough space for either my elastic or my rope. So I'll be using a rope for mine. I like using a rope for this kind of shirts because it's easier to control how fitted it is around the waist. I don't know for you, but I like using a rope. So if you're using a rope like me, just take the measurement you have around this, around the waist. You can add extra inches to that and then use that to make a tiny rope like I did and pass it through the space you have around the waist. But then if you want to use an elastic for yours, you can also do that. It works whatever way you want to use. An elastic too will work for this. So if you're using an elastic, remove 4 to 5 inches from your actual waist measurement and then cut out your elastic and pass it through the space, the elastic casing you have. Now, if your round waist, for example, is 30 inches, you remove 4 inches from that, you have 26 inches. You remove 5 inches, you have 25 inches. That means you're going to use 26 inches. Your elastic length should be 26 inches. You cut that out and use your safety pin to pass it through the space you provided for that. I hope you understand that. I just used ropes for this. If you want to use ropes, I've explained that you can also do that. Okay, so this is what I have. I'm just adjusting this so that it fits perfectly. So you can see how this turned out. It looks nice. Okay, I can't wait to rock this. Just like a simple short. You can also make this longer or shorter depending on your preference. So if you're here at the end of this video and you've not liked this video yet, please like this video. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. I want to say thank you to the 1000 plus subscribers I have. And please do well to share my videos. Thank you for watching and bye.